Show up, be consistent, and create.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out Be Original with Isley Creative,
where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the world of effective marketing.
Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Be Original podcast. My name is OJ.
And I'm Christian.
And today we're talking with Chantel Sumis.
Got it right.
She is the owner and brand sorceress at Stardust Creative. She built her LinkedIn following all the way to 52,000 followers. She's a wife, a mom of one. She's won a hot dog eating contest. She'll deep dish you under the table. She is full of life and spunk. Please welcome, very awesome to have you, Chantel.
Thank you.
The crowd goes wild.
I'm so excited.
So thanks for coming down to do this. You came all the way from Madison to hang out with us today.
I did.
I mean,
There's a few other people in Kenosha and Milwaukee that I was seeing, but I wanted to make you feel special for a second.
That's fine. I understand. Well, good. We're happy to have you here today. So, Chantel, I was introduced. Actually, we weren't actually even formally introduced to each other. I just started following you on LinkedIn, and you're part of like this group of people that are kind of always in my feed on LinkedIn.
Yay!
So
it's working.
So I reached out. I went and sent you an in-message and said, "Hey, here's our podcast," and you responded, which was awesome. And I'm really excited that you're here because, we have a lot to talk about.
So many cool things
Sweet.
In the creative world. Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad that I was a real human responding instead of some weird virtual assistant or robot.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get that, you know?
That's true.
So I want to start off. Let's share with the audience. Tell us about you. Where did you get your start? How did you get where you're at today?
Oh, man. Leaving it wide open for me.
I did, yeah.
Brutal. Okay, so, I'm the bubbly and blessed from the Midwest. Madison's my home, right? So went to school in Milwaukee. Love it here. Would never want to leave. My story really started to shift up a few years ago when I was unexpectedly pregnant after being married, right? It's fine. No big deal. No miracle or anything. But it was all really stressful. Like you're not prepared for this. You're bringing in a life. It's a lot of pressure. And at the same time, I had accepted my dream job, which was a marketing leadership role, and everything fell through with that. So here I had this new baby at home, no job and no health care. And I started getting really sick. And I started losing my vision. Like my vision just got foggier and foggier and foggier. And I remember going to the mall one day to return some clothes that we had purchased because, no job. We need to make ends meet. And I turned around and I couldn't see faces. Like I couldn't even see oh, shoot, which one's my husband? Where's my kid? And it was this red alert where I had dad on speed dial, calling dad, help. And, he took me into the ER the next day. We couldn't wait it out any longer without health insurance. And it came up to this debilitating diagnosis with multiple sclerosis, which is basically an incurable cancer of the nervous system, which your brain is basically attacking itself. Your immune system's attacking itself. And it was a long ride from there. I couldn't use my legs for a while there. I couldn't even walk. I couldn't even get out of the bed at one point because my body just wouldn't, I would say trying to send messages to your leg, get your leg up and swing it over. You can do this, your own personal cheerleader. And it just wouldn't work. It wasn't working. And it was a really, really big hurdle then applying for jobs with a disability and checking that stupid little box on the application process. So long story short, I had to either give up and apply for Social Security and disability and live my life that way, or I had to fight through it. And I'm a daughter. I have 3 older brothers. My dad was a motivational speaker in Chicago for a long time, so I'm not a quitter, right? Dad, my military father, will make sure that I never quit. And he told me about how magical the brain is And when somebody says magic in a sentence, I immediately tune in. I'm so nerdy when it comes to magic. And I really started to study neuroscience, meditation, quantum physics, all these nerdy things, and rebranded myself as a human being then in the marketing arena as this superhero versus that little damsel in distress, like, woe is me, I'm a victim mentality, right? So shifting it around. And because I couldn't get jobs, I decided to do my own due diligence and make contacts with recruiters, and kind of made it into this little like experiment, right? The social experiment. And within 2 weeks, I had 2 job offers, one from each of them on the table. And it was brilliant knowing that you could surpass the application process just by being your own individual branded self, right?
Interesting.
And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I started Stardust Creative because I wanted to help other people with disabilities or invisible illness or people that have difficult things that they can't talk about, and having those challenging conversations.
Okay, so Stardust Creative, what is the purpose? What do you guys do at Stardust? Like, what's the drive?
Branding.
Okay.
Branding. Everything branding. However, specifically, my special treat is on the personal branding. And if you have a really strong personal brand, people don't want to work with anybody but you and that personal brand. So it makes it really hard to scale.
Sure. Interesting. So, man, you have a story. Like, that's crazy.
Everybody's got a story.
Yeah, but that's a story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Do you? Sorry, this is probably a complete side note, and we might completely cut this out later. But do you? You just reminded me of somebody that I follow on Instagram, Nicole Arbor.
I have no idea who that is.
Seriously?
But if I remind you of her,
You should check her out.
Okay.
Because she's like you. She's like a complete badass. Like
Oh,
she came back
thank
from
you.
like she had a massive disability and a car accident. That's what it was. She got in a car accident. She was like paralyzed, and she's got this really awesome story. But now she's like this badass woman, entrepreneur, like branding guru, and she's
that's amazing.
it's really cool. I mean, it's humbling because you guys have. I feel like at times I feel like I have it tough, and I'm like,
I'm sure you do. It's all relative.
I mean,
right?
I guess, yeah, for me, yeah,
Right.
I guess,
Right.
Yeah.
ish.
But that's the beauty of it. There's so much psychology and like neuroscience involved in branding and marketing and sales and the world and human relationships that when you have a traumatic brain injury like that, you're almost forced, if you want to fight through it, to figure it out, to learn more about it, to dive so into it, just so thick that you become a part of it, and then you can really, really understand it and see all the different angles from the big picture.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, I wonder if situations like that where you have like a life-threatening or life-altering sort of situation that you have to deal with causes people to have a reality check. You know what I mean? Where like a lot of times I look at stories like yours and I'm like, well, I have no excuse. You know what I mean? Like I have no not that I haven't done anything in life, but like I have no excuse for not getting where I want to be. You know what I mean? Or
Right.
fighting or pushing harder, doing more.
Right.
But I think it's, we all have traumatic experiences in our life, but sometimes when it's that real, like that in front of you where you can't see in front of you, or you
Yeah.
can't see your husband or your child, like that's just has to be, it's got to be like, wake up, like
Yeah.
just a moment that is actually life-changing, where I feel like a lot of people don't recognize those things because we just kind of coast through
Right.
life. You're like, oh, I guess I have to do this, or I have to post on social media today, or I have to, it's a lot of I have to do this, not I want to or I need to get where I want to be.
No, that's good.
It's really cool.
And isn't that, though, like an epidemic in our society as a whole, right? Like people are wandering around aimlessly without any intention during their
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
which is the saddest thing, I
true,
think,
yeah.
that there is in
Yeah.
a gift of life. It's bananas.
Do you
That's-
think that some people are just wired as like with an entrepreneurial mindset and spirit, and some people aren't? We talk about this a lot because even some partners or people that we've tried to bring into the company to work with us and help build, they want the big salary right now and this and that to be able to build a company, which is kind of backwards, right? Like we
Right.
knew starting this company we weren't going to be getting any big salary. We're just going to grind it out and make it happen. And I feel like there's just a certain aspect of being wired like that
Yeah.
versus not. You know, I wonder if somebody that maybe isn't wired the way you were, have the upbringing that you did, would do the same things that you did to like overcome that and just get out there and be you and create your personal brand and build a business. And
I don't know. You know, when I went through it, it was a hustle and grind, and it was grieving. Like part of me literally died, and I had to say goodbye to her, knowing that I'll never dance again, and I'll never run again, and I'll never do some of these things again. And that could have devoured me whole, and it almost did. I mean, rock bottom hit, and it was real, and I was ready to give it all up.
Yeah.
But there's so much, you know, I'm a mom, dang it.
Yeah.
I have a little dude to take care of. So there's a lot of mission and purpose. So I don't know if there's really that thing that we're born with that really is it that takes us through it. I don't know.
Yeah. I think about it a lot. It's a psychological question
Yeah.
mark to me.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's some people are born with it and others are not. I've seen enough of these guys to know that there are some of them that probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah,
but is
true.
it situational? You know, is
yeah,
it
that's true.
based on experience or based on upbringing? Are there things that you could take two identical people somehow, which doesn't exist?
Sure.
Nobody's identical, but except for twins,
Yep.
they're still not the same people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And put them in two different scenarios, and how do they turn out in the end?
Sure.
You know, do
Right.
they have that same drive based on their upbringing or whatever it is?
Right.
You know, for me, I look at people's situations sometimes and I'm like, all you have to do is get up and go do something.
Yeah.
But they will never think that way. You know, it's not that simple to them. And I just get curious about that, especially with other entrepreneurs, because we talk about it all the time. But what happens on the outside is it something that, you know, is as simple as you're just wired that way, or
It's mindset,
do you really,
right?
Yeah, yeah. You have to.
Yeah, it is mindset.
It's probably a culmination of all these things.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, full transparency, we, Isley Creative, OJ, and Christian, we don't spend a ton of time on LinkedIn. I have been lately, a lot, but I still am very puzzled by the platform. I think it's interesting. But let's just call it what it is. LinkedIn was late to the party when it came to the social media style of integration, like Facebook and Instagram. They were late to the party, any way you look at it. So that's hard. Their video content thing is very recent. Within the last 2 years, it rolled out. You know, they're just now starting to roll out their live thing, so that's a big thing. So, you know, it's the platform itself is very intriguing to me. And I still don't quite understand it, but that's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I want to know.
Solve
Let's
all
talk
of
about.
yours.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know.
solve
You have
all
to
your
solve
problems.
them.
LinkedIn is amazing, and anybody that's figured out how to utilize it effectively becomes obsessed with it. I mean, it's almost a cult. It's so crazy. Just 3 months after announcing that I was launching my own business, Stardust Creative, I remember the video announcement that I made, and I was wearing this little like flower tiara thing, right? Just being your typical bubbly blonde, very basic on LinkedIn. And I was sharing how excited I was to really take control and cater to my clients in order to deliver the ultimate value. 3 months after that, I had generated over $1 million in revenue generating opportunities. 3 months.
Wow,
3 months.
that's great.
Because it's not saturated. It's the early days of Facebook and YouTube. It is the place where if you have a microphone, you can do whatever you want with it. How are you going to use that?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, every time I share a video of personal branding, I did this 20 tips in 2020 series, and I'm only on like tip 5 because I keep getting sidetracked with other things.
Yeah.
Every time I get about 5 clients.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's awesome.
Super
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk. Let's get in. I mean, we don't have to get too far in the weeds. I don't want you to obviously give away all your secrets.
Oh, please, I'm happy to share.
No, but I guess for me is it's like from your perspective, what are some of the things that people should be doing that they're not doing currently on LinkedIn that maybe we are very simple and like take 10 minutes of time, a day that can really change and alter what you're doing?
Well, first and foremost, show up. So get on there, right? That's kind of the basic thing. What does it take to build trust, right? You need to show up consistently with the same as the same person. Have the message, have you ready to share, and know who you are and what your goal is going to be there, right? A lot of people show up and their content, it falls short because they don't have a mission. They don't have a goal that they're following, that they're trying to stick to. It's just static.
Yeah.
But when you have a goal and you're constantly showing up and you're building that trust, it's like your favorite Netflix series, right? You tune in for 4 episodes deep, and you feel super connected to the main character. They're in your dreams. You're thinking about them throughout the day. It's the same thing with video content on LinkedIn. People feel like they know me, stopping me in the grocery store in the avocados section, asking, hey, you're the LinkedIn girl. I've seen your stuff. I would love to have a conversation because I need to get better at LinkedIn. So, yeah, it's amazing. Show up, be consistent, and create.
Yeah. That's interesting. We preach that all the time.
Yeah.
Like every day.
I know, but you can't be everywhere at once. That's the trouble with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. I like I said, LinkedIn is kind of one of those things where I'm late to the party.
No, you're not.
No?
No. Okay. Here's the statistics, right? So there's over 650 million profiles on LinkedIn. 94% of those are just lurkers. So they'll go in, they'll check things out. And you guys were probably lurkers at one point recently. Just kind of seeing what's going on, maybe applying for a job every once in a while. 5% are active likers and occasional commenters. Only 1% of users are active contributors.
Oh, wow.
That's access to over 9 billion feed impressions each week.
Wow.
9 billion feed impressions. So if you ever wanted to be a part of the top 1% of anything, now's the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
Interesting.
I was a C student my whole life, so I take pride in being a top 1%.
That's awesome. That's
like
good.
us.
So what kind of is the we talked earlier, we were talking about Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and obviously they're very different
Totally.
separately, they're
Right.
totally different. What types of content are you seeing a lot of on LinkedIn? Like what should be the content that you're putting up on LinkedIn is probably a better question.
So there's two types of people there, right? There's executives and business owners that are there to make money. They're there to grow. There's also professionals that are there to grow and further their career. So everybody that's there is growth minded, which is the most amazing thing. Because if you tune into Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok, it's just people trying to waste time, really. So it makes creating content on those platforms much easier. But when it's on LinkedIn, when you're creating content and you want to build your community, it's critical that you deliver actionable takeaways, statistics, resources. These are really smart individuals out there that are really trying to, they're curious. They're there because of their curiosity.
Yeah.
And that makes the challenge of creating content that much more beautiful because it really has a purpose.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess I need to. I don't know. I was telling Christian the other day. I feel so. Well, I want to say, maybe intimidated is not the right word, but I just feel intimidated by the thought. It just like you said, it feels so much easier to go on Instagram for me.
Yeah.
Because it's me. Like that's me. I'm quick. I'm witty. I can do it quickly. I feel like with LinkedIn, there's just a lot more thought that has to go into it, and I struggle with thinking. That's
no joke.
Let's just be honest. Thinking is not the easiest thing for me to do.
You should watch OJ write an email. It's the funniest thing ever. But talking on the phone is easy.
Oh yeah,
Talking
I'll
on
talk
the
all
phone,
day long.
But he's writing an email.
email.
He's like,
"Yep, it's
how do you?
awful." And most of the time, people don't take me the right way. Like I'll write an email, and they'll come back with some kind of response, and I'm like, no, I didn't mean it like that.
Well, that's because you failed English.
I did feel English. Lots of
brutal.
English.
No, we were talking about towards the end of last year. LinkedIn's always been kind of in the back of our minds, and we've always had a presence, not a very strong one, and we've never really pushed it. But towards the end of last year, I was saying, because our business is service based, it's more B2B than anything else. LinkedIn's probably where we need to be, and we started having conversations about that, and then OJ started to dig in further. And me as a creative person, LinkedIn's hard for me because I just want to see cool content. And I go on LinkedIn and I'm like, okay, that's boring, whatever. Not that it's all like that, because I've definitely found cool podcasts that were shared on LinkedIn or really great articles. But sometimes I'm like, I just want to see like really creative stuff because that's my job in our business is to be the creative one and to come up with concepts and to come up with things that look cool. But
can I just say something?
Yeah.
I think you guys just found your calling because there's a lack of creative content out there and you guys are the creative guys. So boom.
So yeah, I was going to ask, like, being who we are and what we do, does that change? That's what I think OJ was just referring to. Does that change on LinkedIn? Are we okay now, instead of a super laid back conversational podcast, are we doing a short blip that has statistics in it and things like you were saying that maybe isn't as creative or extravagant, that's kind of straight and to the point? Because we understand that business professionals higher up don't really have the time to mess around with that stuff.
They don't have, well, I mean, it's a good question to ask, right? I think that everybody should be the same person everywhere. You know that Dolly Parton challenge on Instagram where you had all the different headshots? Facebook, Instagram, Tinder, whatever. For LinkedIn, it's all the same. I mean, you should be the same person no matter where you are. I wouldn't share anything about my children on LinkedIn because you never know who's out there when it's an ungated area. There's a lot of private things that I don't think belong there for me and my feelings. But there are people who do share that kind of thing, and that matches their brand. But for your question, I think you be you. I mean, there's a need. Everybody's so unique with their story and their background and what knowledge they have to share. And since it's a knowledge database of people that want to learn and grow, I mean, that's what makes it special. So you have a lot to offer. And if you're not on there and part of the conversation, it's lacking that flavor. Get in.
Yeah, true.
Come on.
True. Does that help your question?
I mean, I guess. Yeah, it does. It does. It seems very daunting to me.
Well, I think it's simpler than you think because you don't have to cut through a bunch of noise that is unrelated to growth, right? Like a lot of other platforms, well, every other platform is just a lot of noise, and you're cutting through people's brains being focused on different things, where when it seems to be when people are on LinkedIn, they're focused on business, they're focused on growth, they're focused on what their needs are within their business or their career path or whatever that is. So it's the perfect platform for everything that we talk about.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It's like the epitome of Gary Vee's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. It's like that constant give, give, give. And we talk about that even with our company. We have some really unbelievable opportunities to work with some of the largest brands in the country. And when we get those opportunities, we say the same exact thing to them. Like it's just, give them something to take away from this, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's something super small or super big. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. You just have to give them, your audience, something to take away from it. My problem is it's just, I don't know why. It just seems harder. I don't know why it seems so hard.
You're answering your own
I
question.
am answering my own questions, and that's the thing. I do that every day. Like, I'll be on LinkedIn, and I'm like, just reading through people's feeds and learning. And, I just recently got into, like, they have the Sales Navigator portion of it. Like, I just got into that a little bit. So I'm learning how to use that tool. And it's like, okay, I can get behind it, but it still seems really,
Yeah.
Now, I would assume, because you're still dealing with people, but the type of content that you put on LinkedIn, or the medium, I guess is a better way to put it, video versus regular copy posts and infographics, whatever it is, what do you feel like performs the best, you know?
That's a good question. There's been a lot of science on that, right? People are trying to pull all of the data to see what does perform best in terms of LinkedIn's algorithm. And the simple solution there, or the only answer that I can give you, is that nobody knows how the algorithm works. We do know how things are filtered in terms of spam or filtering and reporting certain things. But we also know that LinkedIn's algorithm loves feed variety. So it's not going to show only text-only posts to a user. It wants to share everything. So you should really take that into consideration when you're creating a content strategy on there. For example, text-only posts are really easy because you can create them on the whim wherever you go. It's great. It can be long, it can be short, whatever. You can do an image. It breaks up the noise in the feed with some aesthetics, right? That is a good little hook as long as it has lots of color. It shouldn't be a black and white picture or image, or it's going to sink in. Video is the best for building trust, but it's also the most time consuming. So you really need to figure out what works for you. I've never won a client on text only or image.
Sure.
I have plenty from video. It's always been video. So it really depends. But you also have documents, which is a new sort of format. And you can use that to your capability as well. I see a lot of like short, really short, like just one sentence thoughts
Yeah.
performing extremely well.
Yeah.
You know? So
Makes sense.
you basically just got to try, and then you'll see.
You actually have to
You
do
have to do it.
something.
You have to do the work.
Yeah, to get results. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, and then you still have the human element of it that I think people are still attracted to video more so than anything else. They'll stop and watch something because it's moving, it's engaging, it checks all the boxes that we need, you know?
They'll watch it, but they'll read it. They won't
Yes.
listen.
Yeah.
Why
Very
do
true.
they read videos and listen
Yeah.
to books? It doesn't make sense.
That's
Well, it's-
interesting. I never thought about that.
Most of the time, I
Yes.
think people, when they're scrolling through things, are in scenarios that they can't necessarily have sound on.
Sure.
So that's why we talk about captions and things like that, because it's important. It's important that people know what's happening because it keeps them engaged,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we did a pre-interview questionnaire that we sent out. We do that with all of our guests, and one of the things that we ask is for a couple topics that you talked about. I wanted to maybe touch on a couple of these, but the first one is personal branding: how to build thought leadership in a noisy world.
Ooh, yes.
I want to know about that.
I mean, that's basically LinkedIn in a nutshell, right? You know, we have this, and all of my topics get super, super deep in nature just by the type of person that I am. I'm a super heart-centered person, but we have a serious mental health epidemic in the world today, especially loneliness. And I mean, it's tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and the solution for that is human connection. And when we think about how we're living these lives without intention, it doesn't bring purpose into our lives. But if we're building these really amazing relationships, that's thought influence, right? And you
Yeah.
can do that on scale with growth-minded individuals on a platform like LinkedIn. And it's safer over there as well. That's why I chose that platform to build a voice, because there's less trolls. People there are a lot more professional. They're representing their organizations. They
Yeah.
could lose their job if they start trolling somebody really hard.
Yeah.
So that's why it's anybody's game to take and win on LinkedIn. Your personal brand is just who you are, but it's with a mission.
Do you? This side question. Getting back to what we were just talking about, because you just said that is personal branding. I'm just curious. From a company's perspective, Isley Creative,
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
are we supposed to be doing it personally
Yeah.
and then relating it back to the company, or is the
Yes.
company doing it?
No. So I've landed quite a few corporate clients. They're not using their corporate, they're using their corporate pages,
Sure.
their company pages, but it's their executives that are the face of the brand, that are driving that human to human engagement. That's not your, yeah.
I love this. That's exactly what I was hoping
Yeah.
OJ
gonna
wants
do
to be
the
the
work.
face of everything, so
you would say.
put my face on a button.
Yeah. Just here's the thing, and this is why I wanted you to say that. We have been talking this entire season, and it was not planned this way, but literally every conversation that we've had has all gone back to the human to human connection. And it's that's it. We had a lead pastor of a church in this morning that spoke with us, and it's the same exact thing. Yeah. Like it is building. So these corporations, they bring on their executive team, or maybe they employ people, throughout the organization, right? That are just their face of the brand. It's not just about who the brand is, it's about who that person is behind it. And now they're building their own community. And now when new products get released, when new services get released, all of a sudden these communities that you've put in place throughout your organization are tasked with the idea of saying, okay, we want you to bring this to your community and tell us what it looks like, how it feels, or whatever, how it works. And that's exactly what that's what marketing is. That's
Absolutely.
What we're trying to accomplish.
It's
right?
the strongest form of marketing. Is that referral, word of mouth marketing, right?
Yeah.
So we're finally hacking into it in a social form and in the digital world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So when we talk about building communities, and we talked a little bit with Joel about this too, but like building communities on LinkedIn, what is that? What is the like manifestation of that? I guess is the best word to say it. What, you think when you talk about building communities in like a digital mindset, you think of like Facebook groups, right?
Right.
So what does that look like on LinkedIn?
This is going to sound so vain when I say it, but it's your follower count, right? If your followers are your community. I have probably 5 or 6 times more followers than I do connections on there. And I don't think of my followers, as cheesy as this sounds. And I know that a lot of people say it, but these people really mean a lot to me.
Sure.
They let me into their life. Time is the only thing that we'll never get back, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that these people that might be strangers, might be friends, might be people that I've had conversation with, let me into their life and spend time with me, that's huge. Like that melts my heart into a big old puddle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And not everybody thinks that way. And I think that you see through that stuff on social media too. You can see who's authentic, and you can see who's just kind of faking it till they make it.
Yeah. Do you encourage people to follow you, or people just do it?
I don't. There are many people that are a lot more effective than I am say, follow me, but I don't. I'm not a salesperson by any means.
Well, I think it's a good thing to talk about in the sense that, even another episode we talked about micro influencers and, people from 1,000 to 2,000 or 20,000 followers on Instagram or whatever. But I think the same applies in the LinkedIn sense, where if you're building a community, even if it's like 10, 20 people that that are constantly seeing your content and the things that matter. I mean, think about it, what it's like to have a really good relationship with a person, like your best friend or people you work with on a day-to-day basis. The time invested in each other is something that is super important and super valuable. So like even in our business, for example, when OJ's booking time for shoots, for things like that, he's considering, maybe not consciously, obviously we have, things laid out in a way that there's a value attached to an hour, right? But in general, he's thinking, I can't book, 90 hours of work for one person in 1 week, because I know that they have a life and that I'm respecting their time, right? So their time is valuable, and you learn that more so in a face-to-face connection. But if you could take that mindset and apply it to a community that you're building or the followers that you have, I feel like they'll feel more valued. And that grows from that point because you're giving them valuable content. It comes back to the content. If you're just trying to grow numbers for the sake of trying to grow numbers, your content probably isn't going to be that valuable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you're also talking about the psychology of emotion, right? Because you're making people feel connected to you in some form.
Yeah.
How do you want them to feel?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And you're actually connecting with them at that point.
Absolutely.
Rather than just, here's another video because I have to do 2 every day.
Click, like, and share.
Yeah. OJ's favorite words.
Bring that bell.
Every episode. Let's
Every
do
episode. Ring that bell. Ding ding. No, I think the interesting part about this whole thing is that LinkedIn. It's just interesting that we're still having this conversation. As far as Facebook and Instagram took us, and now we're having a very similar, or it's just interesting to me that it's taken this long for us to get to this point on the corporate side of things.
Well, let's also remember that Microsoft purchased LinkedIn only 4 years ago. So they're redoing all the guts in the background, all the code to make it better. You know, I really do think there's going to be a lot more capabilities there as well, with maybe even a Skype integration or something like that in the future, where they can have their own conference call center and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the epicenter of all of the marketing data that you need to reach a targeted marketing campaign. You
Yeah.
know, all the job titles, everything's there. It's perfect. It's a dream. So it really is going to be the future, and I see that it's going to take off so much further than it is right now. So you guys got to start creating.
Yeah, no kidding.
We will. We are right now.
Confirmed.
Tomorrow.
Confirmed.
We have plans for these
Right
things on
now.
LinkedIn.
We talked a little bit. You spend a lot of time working with people that don't have or may not have the resources or the ability to get out into the job workforce, and your goal is to like help them. I think you had. Did you say that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what I do with personal branding is I charge a lot more than my competitors. And the reason for that is that I take on pro bono clients every week that have either disabilities or on the spectrum of some sort, but they have an obstacle that they have to work through in securing a new career or furthering their career or having discussions with leadership just for a raise. So that's what I do with their personal branding, is help them feel empowered and build their brand and their voice so that they can do that.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
that's brilliant.
It keeps me afloat. It helps
Well,
my
yeah,
heart
and
sing.
I'm sure your clients feel like they're actually giving into something at the same
do,
time
yeah.
as they're paying for a service.
They feel better about paying the high price because they know that it is going to a good place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, do you create all of your own content? Like you do it yourself?
Oh, yes.
All your
absolutely.
videos are done?
Everything. Well, my husband's my bitch.
I love it.
He just, sorry, I just broke your microphone
No,
there
no,
with
no,
my
you're
cackle.
good, you're
It's
good.
all good.
He does all my video editing for me sometimes when
Nice.
I need to outsource it. He loves being a part of things, bless his heart. He just loves to be involved. So we
That's
give him
great.
a little job.
What a good husband.
Does he work with you? or-
No. He's a federal officer for the Department of Homeland Security. So
Part-time video editor.
yeah,
Part-time video editor.
full-time bitch.
That is hilarious.
His LinkedIn profile must be interesting.
Oh my God. I can't imagine the guys on his team watching this, and
they'll
this
never
one's in
see
the
it.
full-time
Yeah.
bitch. And they all look at him
Gonna
like,
kill me in my sleep.
Yeah, right.
no, that's good. That's awesome that you have him to help you,
man.
obviously.
I love his grand.
Yeah. So are you, what else are you working on right now? You're like a LinkedIn ambassador, or I don't even, what is that even?
So I do LinkedIn Local. So LinkedIn Local is a phenomenon that took the world by storm 2 years ago out of Australia. And what that means is there was a group of people in Australia that wanted to bring people together from behind the profiles, like people you're connected to that you've never met in person. So it's more like warm networking, not that icky, weird, gross networking. And I was contacted by my friend in Belgium to bring it to Chicago. So I brought it to Chicago originally at Microsoft's headquarters with my team down there. And it was like this instant family feel. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but it's not your like weird, awkward, everybody here is in financial services trying to sell me health
Sure.
insurance.
Yeah.
It's really people, a lot of people in the creative industry, a lot of freelancers, solopreneurs that are really interested in just making real connections, because you never know what'll happen there. You never know what kind of collaboration, which is the best thing to do in the creative field to build your community, what'll happen. So I brought it to Madison. I didn't think anybody in Madison would ever want to use LinkedIn, but we sell out within 24 hours every single time we list a
That's cool.
event. We brought it to Milwaukee. That's where I just was before I came here. And we started to pair it up with charity. So it's connecting with a cause, so that when we come together and we feel good about it, because we know that we're benefiting a local charity too.
Very
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Chantel, we usually, to wrap things up at the end of the episode, we like to leave our people with some tangibles, things to take away. We talked about it in LinkedIn. I'm going to put you on the spot. 1 to 2 things. What can we take away from this episode that they can apply to their LinkedIn profile or whatever?
Okay.
Tell
First,
it to 'em.
create a profile. Number 1. Number 2, make sure that you have a nice looking headshot with good lighting. Headshots drive 14 times more views to your profile. And start getting out there and creating, liking, engaging. Again, in social media, a like really doesn't do anything. So it's a like plus. Make sure that you like and you engage. Give them a compliment and ask them a question so that they come back. And the next thing you know, you're best friends, or they're a client.
Nice.
Awesome.
Better
Love
yet.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us again today. It was awesome. Everybody else, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell, do all that stuff. Thank you for checking us out. It means the world to us. We love you. Thank you. Peace. Thanks again for checking out Be Original with Isley Creative.
We hope that this helps you put a little more you in your marketing.
Catch a new episode every week right here on the Be Original podcast.